It was largely ugly with smatterings of spectacular from Butler and Rose and just enough for Chicago and a rough and tumble night. Technical fouls, scrums on the floor, a whole lot to get into here from game two. Bottom line is Bulls are up 2-0.
Bottom line, both teams shooting at 30%. Turnovers. Actually, Milwaukee took pretty good care of the ball. They only had 4 turnovers, but could not make a shot once again after getting off to a pretty good start. And then Jimmy Boy gets hot in the fourth quarter and pulls him out rip.
Oh, Jimmy Buckets, he was excellent for them. I mean, he scored the ball all over the court for them. And the thing that I loved about him was how efficient he was. I mean, he made plays inside the offense. He never really got out of the offense and tried to go on his own other than that the heat check shot, the three-point shot he made late in the fourth quarter. But I thought he was excellent, man. I thought he played a complete game, not just offensively, but defensively too. And the Bulls did their job. They wanted to keep them under 90 points, and they held them to 82, and also under 40%. The Bucks shot 35.6%. So I thought they did a great job at that.
It's what they've been doing here at the end of the season. 21 of Butler's 31 came after halftime. In the third quarter, both he and Derrick Rose came alive, and ultimately in a relatively, in a low-scoring game, in a relatively low-possession game. The Bulls got off just 81 shots in this game. That might have been the difference, the third quarter, when Rose and Butler both woke up.
No, that's a great point, man, because both guys realized they had to get something going because they got a little stagnant offense. And Rip, you pointed out something, a little sound we saw when Jimmy was going to the bench. He said, Coach Tibbs, they're too little. Give me the ball. And I was like, wait a minute, I hadn't seen that confidence before, and you had seen that.
Yeah, and the thing about Jimmy that I love is when I was in Chicago in the 2 years I was playing there, it was a period of time where Joakim Noah was out, Luol Deng was out, I was out, and Derrick Rose was out. And Jimmy was very aggressive. He went out there, I mean, he led us in scoring every game that all the guys were out. But when the guys came back, I had many conversations with him in his locker, and he used to always come up to me and say, Rip, how do I go out and play now with everybody coming back into the mix? And the one thing I always told him was, just be yourself. Be aggressive. Don't be complacent. Don't play east to west. Play north to south. And he kind of figured it out. And then you see tonight with Derrick coming back, he's still playing with the level of aggressive that the Chicago Bulls need him to play at.
Well, he's been a revelation all season long as a go-to offensive player, which is just not something we'd seen for extended periods of time in his career. And just makes Rose's job that much easier the better Butler gets.
No question about it, man. I'm still excited for him. 14 times to the free throw line. That's one of the things he was doing early in the season. It kind of amazed all of us that he's being aggressive. To your point, Rip, get to the free throw line. I wish he'd make a few more, be a little nitpick, but 8 of 14, I guess you'll take it because you get the victory tonight.
Some odd stuff in the box score. The Bulls turned it over 15 times for the game, but just 4 after halftime when they were much better offensively. You mentioned the Bucks turned it over just 4 times, period.
Unbelievable.
We're going to check to see if that's some kind of a record, maybe a team record at least. And look at the rebounding numbers.
Crazy.
The Bulls had 64 rebounds in this game and took just 81 shots. Very unusual for the gap to be that small between the two.
No, it is, Matt. And then you look at it offensive rebound-wise, the Bulls had 14 offensive rebounds. But when both teams shooting the high 38 percentile from the field, there's going to be a lot of
there are a lot of rebounds to get.
There's a lot of rebounds to get. And right now, with all those bigs down low for Chicago, they took advantage of it.
What about the rough stuff we saw in this game? And it started relatively early on in the game. We had technical fouls assessed back in the second quarter to Mayo and Henson, Butler and Joakim Noah, so 2 for each side after Aaron Brooks, it was actually called for foul. Aaron Brooks was knocked to the floor by John Henson, who then sort of hovered over him for a little bit. That started things. Then Zaza Pachulia, who's been through this before in the postseason, by the way, gets into it with Nikola Mirotic. First, he caught Mirotic with an elbow to the head. He was teed up for that, and then there was this scrum off a miss on the Milwaukee end of the floor. Both were teed up, and that was the end of Zaza's night as well. Is this by design from Milwaukee's point of view? We talked about them mucking up the game in some form or fashion. We were thinking more along the lines of turnovers, but is this part of the plan?
Well, I think so. I mean, Jason Kidd said in his press conference that they're not going to outscore Chicago, so they really got to muck up the game and make it a dirty, aggressive, old school playoff type of game.
Right.
When when me and D. Scott seen the little altercation that they had, we loved it because that's what playoff basketball is all about. And you can actually see how Jimmy Butler responded because of that. between him and O.J. Mayo. As soon as he went through that with O.J. Mayo, he came out and scored, I think, 8 to 10 points in the quarter. So I think that it's a nice thing that we want as players, because it kind of gets us up, and people and the fans are expecting that, because now it is playoffs. So I'm just happy to see how Chicago responded.
And for me, Zaza, to your point, Matt, Zaza's been down here before.
Yeah.
Kind of back in the day when he was with the Hawks and played against the Celtics, Game 7.
The Kevin Garnett stuff.
Yeah, so we know Zaza's not afraid to mix it up here. But to your point, Rip, I thought Jason Kidd was doing a wonderful job orchestrating the muck-up game. First quarter, 16-11. So everything is going right down Milwaukee's way. And then the second skirmish, you're like, I think you might have awoken these guys and got them going. That's when Jimmy Butler got hot, and then three, then Derrick Rose knocked down his shot, and Noah, and everything got going for him there and Matt down the stretch.
There's a point at which that becomes counterproductive, especially when you start losing players. For one, Pachulia played fairly well for most of this game. The other concern for Chicago moving forward is the health of Nikola Mirotic, who we saw limp off. Not going to speculate. I have no idea what's wrong with him. It looked like somewhere in the knee area, but other than that, can't really say. But he's been so good in his rookie season coming off that Chicago bench. This would be it's got to be a major concern moving forward in this series and throughout the playoffs.
Well, it's definitely a major concern for Chicago, because what Mirotic brings to the table is he really spaces the floor, especially with Derrick out on the basketball court. So it allows Paul Gasol to do his regular post-up moves, and enables him to get in pick and roll with Derrick and spot up and hit the wide-open jump shot. I think what he has to stop doing is pump faking out there, because he's too great of a shooter to pump fake, and he'll be all right. But hopefully that injury is not nothing serious, because Chicago is really going to need him in the playoffs.
Mirotic came off the bench, 3 of 9, 8 points. There are a lot of ugly shooting percentages in this game, as you might guess, from teams that shot 38 and 35 roughly percent, respectively, including Derrick Rose, who was scoreless in the first half and then got it going in the third quarter. Was there something in particular he did differently, or just kind of caught fire?
I think just caught fire. He was still aggressive. I thought early in the game a few times it looked like he was a little too fast, going out of control, but I think he understands now, my body feels good, I got to play my way. In that second half, he got hot.
Bright spot for the Bucks offensively, and I'm going to say the only bright spot really offensively, was Chris Middleton, who matched his jersey number with 22 points. And despite everything else going on around him, he was a consistent go-to sort of scorer for Milwaukee.
Well, he was great. He really played his style of game tonight. He hit the spot up wide open jump shots. When the shot was there, he took it. When it wasn't, he made the right play. And I think that this is a coming out party for him, because a lot of people didn't know his name. Nobody knew how good he actually was. But the one thing that he continues to do for the Bucks, he makes plays and he knocks down shots. He kind of got like the old school game where he can get in and hit the 18-foot medium range jump shot, which is making him very effective for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Third-year player out of Texas A&M. You're right, not a household name. A lot of folks don't know much about him. And remember, the Bucks began the year with Jabari Parker, who they figured would be a big scorer for them, and obviously with Brandon Knight as well, who ended up getting traded to Phoenix. So there are not a ton of offensive options on this Milwaukee team in terms of guys they've been able to lean on all season.
Well, that's why when the trade went down, we all were kind of scratching our heads like, wait a minute, this is the guy that's been scoring for you, and now you're getting to the playoffs. And as much as you love Michael Carter-Williams' upside, he is struggling to score the basketball, has no confidence in his jump shot. And a couple of times he was trying to back down Derrick Rose, which he has 4 or 5 inches, and Derrick Rose said, no, you're not backing me down. So I'm like, wait a minute, now how do you take advantage of your size if you cannot overpower this man? So somehow Jason Kidd has to get some confidence in him.
And also, I think that, like I said, Jason Kidd did a great job of really loading up in the paint. And as you look at the stat sheet, Chicago shot 33 three-point shots. And in order to beat the Bulls, I would say the same thing. Make them shoot long-distance jump shots. So their game plan early in the game was great. It was just too much Derrick Rose and too much Jimmy Butler down the stretch.
Bulls hit 12 threes along the way in their 33 attempts. Good enough percentage, certainly in this type of game, to get it done. And they win it 91-82.